Hi, Body Messiah. This is what I believe is going to be the last lesson in RIW, Removing or Remembering Idol Worship. This is lesson 4. The title is generic. It's Don't Let an Organization or an Individual Be Your Idol. We know we're not supposed to have any idols before our Most High. So this right here is to cover entities in a generic format. Maybe about 2 years ago, we covered a lesson about all your lovers have forgotten you, and we had, much more on the list besides this. The one thing I think we added new is social media on this list, because we want to make sure that people keep in the forefront of their mind that organizations and individuals can become idols, meaning things that you value more higher than the standards of the Most High and the Most High Himself. Okay? There are some people out there who treat ministers or the church as if it is the Most High, and they're not. Even when we look at, for instance, the Roman Catholic denomination, they had etched it in and forced upon so many people for hundreds of years that only a pope or a priest is the intercessor between God and man. And that's not true. Okay? There's only one Savior given into the world, and that's Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? And when you see this being forced over hundreds of years on people and passed down for generations, you'll see this mentality that gets stuck on some people who have been a part of the Roman Catholicism for years. Even under Roman Catholicism, you have where they have their own, quote, Bible or religious standards or that they created themselves, and a lot of which goes against the standards of the Most High God. So we have to be aware of every aspect of various avenues, not just religious denominations such as Roman Catholicism, but even the workplace can pull you away. And some people will get a mentality where my job is everything, and they value it more than communing with the Most High. So we have to be very cautious of that, because this has caused us to be removed from up under the shield of protection that He provides to us. I even put up here school. Some people feel like school is everything, or being educated is everything. And if you don't attain or achieve some form of higher education, then you're garbage. Okay? That is a way in which this can become an idol to you. Adonai Elohim is no respecter of person. Go look it up in scriptures. He don't care how much money a person have or don't have, how much education they have or don't have. He's no respecter of person. One thing He does say is that everybody is supposed to abide by His standard, and they have a choice and an opportunity to do so multiple times throughout their life. Okay? I also want to mention things like politics. Some people feel like the government is everything their whole life, and political groups are everything in their whole life. And they will follow not just politics, but a political leader as if they can walk on water. and thus making them their idol. Everything they say is as good as gold, and they will go to the grave defending everything a political organization or a political person says. We have to make sure that we don't get drawn down an avenue of idolatry in that manner. We're going to mention these scriptures to keep us level set on why it's so important that we have to be aware of organizations and individuals becoming idols in our lives. Because as we discussed several times in Sajiko Bible studies, Numbers chapter 22 through 25, and also include chapter 31, where the seer was asked to curse the children of Israel. And God would not allow him to do that because God said they are blessed people and I love them. He was not allowed to do it, but he went through in an underhanded way and manipulated some people to get children of Israel to engage in some sexual immorality that caused them to bond with Baal or Satan. And God had to punish them because they broke his commands. Thousands of descendants of Israel died because of that. And we're saying this to reiterate and to say, be aware. At the head of a lot of these organizations, there are some objectives that some people who want to honor Satan may be pushing things through to encourage you to do that will draw you away from the Most High. We should be fully aware of this when we look at Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 through 19. There are people who are Amalekites today who are known that they are groomed to do and engage in activity that to honor Baal or Satan. And one of their main purposes is to try and destroy or cause the descendants of Israel to falter. So when we look at things like, for instance, in Hollywood, I'll give one prime example, which has been big for the past decade or so. In Hollywood, you'll notice that everything you see on TV that involves a black or brown descendant of Israel, and them being a couple, is always some dysfunction or disarray going on, right? They rarely will show a black man with a black woman. They either show a black man with some other ethnic group or a black woman with some other ethnic group. Or any movie you see or even series you see, they'll have that black man or that black woman to be gay or homosexual, right? So the beast system is trying to project an image to say that this is acceptable, children of Israel. This is who you are, and it's a lot of them amongst you, trying to encourage a behavior that may cause you to falter and cause you to engage in sexual immorality and sin that will pull you away from Adonai's standard. We speak about this in detail in a 4-part lesson in UBP, Uncovering Biblical Prophecies, lesson 15, in 4 parts. And we describe how people who are seeking fame and seeking honor or riches will sacrifice their morality and can get drawn down an avenue where they're going to get snared by Satan or individuals who are functioning to honor Satan to kill, steal, and destroy their lives, literally. They don't care what type of sexual immorality you're engaging in, okay? So Hollywood projects this image, and even the people who are hired to work for them are going to have to start setting a standard, especially if they're Hebrew descendants of Patriarch Abraham or black and brown descendants of Israel, beginning to understand who they are. There are many who used to participate and be actors in Hollywood and Hollywood, and they have come to understand the error of their ways in the past, and they're adamant about they will not take a role that will cause them to sacrifice their morality anymore. And that is necessary to break these spiritual ties that could cause them to falter and go down a path God never intended for them. Okay? That's why it's so vital to research history and understand history, because in the creation of some of these organizations, their origin, they were created in a purpose that went against God's standard in the first place. Okay? And we'll cover one in detail later on. But I want to mention something about social media. Social media is very deceptive. It encourages people to engage in various activities that will cause them to be, I feel, trained or groomed like you would do a pet. Okay. Notice on social media, they're encouraging you to like things and like it and hit the button and like. But there are so many people who seek their every joy and waking hour through social media as a way to uplift themselves mentally and spiritually. That makes that system an idol. Okay? People will engage in immoral acts just to get more, quote, likes or friends in social media. And what's so deceptive about social media, I remember when that the founder, so-called founder of Facebook, was saying it's a way to keep people connected and people who are not that social to stay social. And that is so far from true. Social media makes people so antisocial. And I'm going to make a point about that. The reason why I say social media make a lot of people antisocial is deceptive is you will get, and I'm pretty sure many of you know, that there are people who you will call on the phone to talk with and interact with or want to go and meet and see them and go visit them. And you can't get an answer from them. But if you have a Facebook page or an Instagram and you click on a button to communicate with them, they'll answer it immediately, just like that. So social media is very deceptive. It's a way in which a lot of people who are probably already antisocial can become even more antisocial. They lose that face-to-face interaction with people. And it, to me, causes them to lose a spiritual connection to people because they have isolated themselves so much. And social media has done this to them. But in that strong delusion, they believe it's making me social. They may have 5,000 likes or friends or whatever they call it in Facebook, but not know any of these people personally. And that's kind of sad because in their mind, their mentality is groomed to think that this is what I need to complete my life. And it's so not true. It becomes an idol in their mind. You'll see people who have basically become publicity whores because of social media and engage in even activities that will cause the demise of another human being because they're seeking approval under this arena, causing it to be an idol. Some of these shootings that you see at random, they try to publicize that on social media, the person that's carrying out these atrocities because they're seeking for some type of glorious attention. So it's very deceptive and can become an idol. Adonai Elohim wants to hear from you as an individual and you to communicate with him. But he does not want us to forsake the assembling of ourselves with one another. So don't be deceived under this and make this your whole life of interaction is to go on an electronic device instead of interacting with actual people. Okay? Trust me, they're human just like you. But anyway, I digress. I want to mention that why it's so important to reiterate for us to know history and understand the history of many of these organizations. And one organization I'm going to choose is the Fraternal Order of Police. Now, I know many in the organization are not racist or as some people put it, a race soldier. But there is a spirit of white supremacy that dwells amongst it. And it can be linked to the origins of it. So I'm making you to be aware that when people who are in that organization begin to build bonds or ties, they need to know the origins of it so that they can pray against becoming one who is drawn down a path that would make them adverse against the children of the Most High God, the black and brown descendants of Israel, because they can be snared by that. And one way of knowing when you're joining an organization to see and keep your eye out for those who are going to try and cause you to be amongst those who would treat us and oppress black and brown descendants more, to be aware of that, you have to know the origins and the history of the police force in the United States of America. Okay? So let me read this, some of these excerpts from this particular document that you can find on the website for the NAACP about the origins of modern day policing, so we can understand this. And we can say this along the lines of even some of the military, okay? But let me just focus on policing. The origins of modern day policing can be traced back to the slave patrol. There's a specific group or entity called the slave patrol, and that's the predecessor to the Fraternal Order of Police. The earliest formal slave patrol was created in the Carolinas in the 1700s with one mission: to establish a system of terror and squash slave uprisings with the capacity to pursue, apprehend, and return runaway slaves to their owners. The tactics included the use of excessive force to control and produce desired slave behavior. Okay? Now, in these slave patrols, they were to make a vow. And I'm going to summarize. The vow was basically to hunt down slaves or search them for guns, swords, and other weapons, to make sure basically that they kept them under strict oppression and oppressive rules, okay? To make sure that they wouldn't gather in groups. Now, I have a family member that some decades ago that had applied to join the police force, and he backed out of it because he did not like this particular police unit was saying particular things. Now, he's a black male, and one thing they would try and grain in him and say, now make sure if you see a group of black people gathered together, you need to break that up because that means trouble. This is linked to the origin of slave patrol. Now, this person was a black male, so how do you think that made him feel? Now, I do have a family member that did join the police that was in another state besides the one that we're in and stuff, and he was an honorable man. So, but he knew that a lot of the people in the groups of police officers who still had that mentality of white supremacy would try to say, well, you know, this group of people, they're bad and they're this. And he would have to check the officers that would say that, being that he was a black male, okay? So these are mentalities that have to be broken, because if you bond with groups like that, the Fraternal Order Police, and you know that there's a stronghold of white supremacy, you have to be, number one, spiritually girded up and covered under the shield of protection of the Most High, because there are going to be people who may be descendants of workers of iniquity amongst the Ammonites, the Moabites, or the Amalekites that will dwell in these organizations too, to try and encourage the destruction or the demise of descendants of Israel. It's very important that even if you're a member of any organization, or you feel like you want to honor a business owner, that you keep in mind that it's the Most High God and His standards first and foremost. God is awakening us for such a time as this so we can break these strongholds and these bonds, so that we won't ever go down the route of idolatry again. He sent the descendants of Israel to overtake the land for those people who were going against all of His standards and had no respect for the Most High Yah. Let us never again go that route and be likened unto those people, okay? So understand that any organization or anything that you think could be an idol, you begin to submit yourself to the Most High so that you can change that mentality in your spirit. Because it's getting close. Satan knows his time is coming to an end, and he's going to always try and use some type of avenue to try and distract you, body of Messiah, and pull you away from him. But be strong and steadfast, okay? Understand that we honor him for the glory of his kingdom and his kingdom alone. And it's not because we're something phenomenally special. It's because our daddy said so. He said, they will be my people and I will be their God. And that's going to happen no matter what. Well, body of Messiah, this is the end of this lesson. I hope that you've learned some new information that you might not have known before. And like we always say to you, may Adonai Elohim cover and surround you and your family, shield and protect you all, and envelop you all with his shalom peace. Goodbye.